The Ballad of Ken and Vivian, Part 3. Where we left off in the last video was June and July of 2016. Vivian and I were married that January of 2016, but because we had so much to do, we really didn't have time for a proper honeymoon. So I booked a bunch of stuff for us to do and in the Philippines, and I flew back to the Philippines. Now, remember, right after our wedding, I had put in the paperwork for Vivian's immigration. So, but this was our chance to have a little honeymoon, a couple of weeks together in late June, early July. And I may have mentioned in the last video, I'm not sure. But when I was flying over, Vivian's sister Chorito passed away, and we had to go to the funeral and then go back to Alona Beach, and then we went to Oslab and then came back to Manila. So that's a little recap of what went on in the last video. So here we are in July, August, September of 2017, and I'm just watching the process of her paperwork being processed. And so finally she was approved, and I sent her, Vivian, and my stepdaughter, Shara, to Manila, put them up in a hotel for a few days, and Vivian went through the medical exam and then to the interview, and everything went well, and she was approved. They pasted her visa into her passport, the CR1 visa, and then she had to wait a few days because they put it in the passport, and then they send the passport back to Vivian via courier. So when Vivian got her passport, once I knew that she was approved, I booked a flight for her. Now, what I did was in those days, Philippine Airlines had a flight directly from Cebu to Los Angeles. I'm not sure if they do anymore. The last time I checked, it wasn't flying. It may be a seasonal thing. Maybe sometimes they do it and sometimes they don't. But this is now November of 2016. And so I booked Vivian on the flight directly from Cebu to Los Angeles. And the reason I did that was I didn't want Vivian to have to deal with changing planes in, say, Hong Kong or Japan or Korea or something, and then flying to, Boston or New York, and then changing planes and flying to Baltimore. So I put her on a direct flight from Cebu to LAX, and then I flew out to Los Angeles on Delta and booked a hotel for a couple of days. I figured we would spend a little time in LA, and Vivian had never been out of the country before, so I thought it would be fun to do one of those open bus things that they have and go through Hollywood and do all that jazz. So Vivian arrived in Los Angeles, and it was like 65 degrees. She was freezing. She had never been so cold. For us Americans, 65 degrees is, balmy weather. But Vivian was too cold, so I nixed the going on the tour in the open bus because I knew with the wind chill she would be freezing to death. So we spent 2 nights in LA, and then I had booked us both tickets from LAX back to Baltimore, Washington International, and we flew back by way of Salt Lake City, which was kind of cool because that was Vivian's first time to be able to see real snow up in the mountains near Salt Lake, and she was excited about that. And all this, and there's videos of all this stuff, guys, for you to enjoy. So we got back to Maryland, and we were here for maybe a month, and then my company has a Christmas party every year. Actually, they call it the Christmas breakfast. It lasts all day long. I mean, it's just an all-day long party. And so everybody contributes some food to the party. And Vivian made chicken adobo. So we had chicken adobo and rice, and there was everything else there imaginable, scrapple, eggs, just everything under the sun. Everybody leaves fat from that Christmas breakfast. But Vivian was hanging out at my desk, and she was really tired, and she was losing a lot of blood. She was having a lot of from menstruation. Well, that's what she said. So I could tell she was becoming kind of anemic, and I was concerned that she had lost too much blood. So right after that, I took her to the hospital because I figured she told me that she was losing a lot of blood. I figured she might need a blood transfusion. So I took her to the hospital, and she had brought the paperwork from her doctor in the Philippines. And they're like, oh my God, she has cancer. They ran a gazillion tests on her and discovered that she had endometrial cancer in her uterus. They did an emergency hysterectomy and cleared all that out. So basically, we spent Christmas of 2016 at the hospital. I bought a little redneck Christmas tree and put it in the room. And then I spent my time with her. I tell you, I very much appreciate my employer, a company called Novatech. Those people were great. They supported me. They gave me all the time I needed to be with Vivian and spend time with her. And they're like, just take the time. We don't care, So it was very wonderful of them to do what they did to help us both. So finally, we get home from the hospital. Now we're in January, and we're sitting in the living room, and Vivian's in the chair, and she's like, "Oh, I can't raise my hand." She holds up her arm, and it's drooped over like this. Can't. She had a stroke, just a mild one at that point, but she had a stroke, so I had to take her back to the doctor. And then the oncologist saw her. Well, the oncologist had seen her afterwards, but then she had to go see a neurosurgeon and some other people, and I was just running her to and from doctor's appointments. And that was the first of 3 strokes that she had. Apparently, the cancer causes the blood to clot up, and then the clots move through the bloodstream into the brain and causes a stroke. And so the 3rd stroke is the one that killed her. And that was October of 2017.